If someone told you that a monkey would become one of the most successful stock pickers in the US, there's a good chance you might not believe them. And if they handed you a tonic made from real liquid gold and promised immortality, would you drink it? Probably not. From the World Taekwondo Federation's unexpected name change to the bizarrely adorable sea creature, the skeleton panda. Here's 20 random facts. Let's go. In 1999, a chimpanzee named Raven stunned the financial world by becoming the 22nd most successful money manager in the US. Her strategy didn't involve trawling through hours of annual financial reports. She simply tossed darts at a stock chart stuck to a wall. And despite the primitive approach, Raven's picks outperformed over 6,000 professional brokers, proving success on Wall Street doesn't always come from fancy degrees. Sometimes all you need is a monkey and a dartboard. In the quest for eternal youth, wealthy nobles once drank aurum potable, Latin for drinkable gold. Alchemists swore this strange tonic made by dissolving real gold into powerful acids could cure disease and could restore health and even grant immortality. And they even had high-ranking royals convinced. They made it part of their everyday health routine. But despite the hype, liquid gold was far from miraculous. It offered no real benefits and, somewhat ironically, more than likely had the effect of shortening their lives instead. More than a quarter of the world's captive bred panda population are descendants of just one male panda named Pan Pan. Born in the wild in China's Sichuan province in 1985, Pan Pan sure got around. Over his lifetime, he fathered more than 30 cubs and is linked to over 130 descendants worldwide. He lived to the age of 31, a pretty impressive lifespan for a panda. And because of his bachelor panda ways, his species went from endangered to, well, quite a bit less endangered. Nothing might sound simple, but it's actually one of the hardest concepts to truly define. Philosophers and physicists alike have debated it for centuries. In everyday language, nothing means an absence. But in the realm of quantum mechanics, the science that explores the universe at its smallest scales, even a perfect vacuum isn't really empty. There's really nothing out there to help us clearly define what nothing actually is. In 2017, the World Taekwondo Federation took the drastic measure of changing their name, officially dropping the Federation to simply become World Taekwondo. But why would a well-established global organisation using the same name since 1973 suddenly decide to change it? Well, it was because of the internet, specifically the meteoric rise in internet slang and the unfortunate popularity of the acronym WTF. I'm sure most of us know what it stands for. The rebrand makes sense. If only people in the 1920s knew what we know now, they might have thought twice before switching on their hairdryers. Back then, many models were lined with asbestos. It was used as insulation to prevent overheating, and while it was great at resisting heat, we now know that you should definitely avoid inhaling asbestos fibres. They can be deadly. That's the only reason I chose not to have hair. I promise. Measles is nasty. Not only does it make you seriously ill, but it also rewires your immune system in a pretty disturbing way. Through a process called immune amnesia, the virus erases the immune system's memory by targeting and destroying the cells responsible for remembering past infections. It's like a real-life factory reset. Once the virus runs its course, your body can forget up to 70% of the pathogens it once knew how to fight. A terrifying gift that keeps on giving. You know that scene in a movie where someone dramatically sinks into quicksand and vanishes without a trace? Hate to break it to you, but it's all a lie. If we take a step back from Hollywood, just for a second, in reality, quicksand is much denser than the human body. It's physically impossible to sink completely beneath it. Sure, you might get stuck waist deep and find it hard to move, But the real danger isn't being swallowed alive. It's the panic that comes with it, or even being trapped with no one around. Still don't recommend jumping into quicksand though. Best to avoid. The movie The Exorcist was scary enough, but it's what happened behind the scenes that was even more unsettling. Crew members reported strange noises and objects moving on their own. Several people connected to the film died before it was even released. And to top it all off, a mysterious fire broke out and destroyed the entire set. Well, except for one room. That was the bedroom that they used for the exorcism scenes. Coincidence? I'm not so sure. Back in ancient times, starting in the Bronze Age and continuing through the Roman Empire, the colour purple wasn't always easy to come by. In fact, it was once one of the most expensive dyes in the world. Known as Tyrian purple, named after the Phoenician trading city of Tyre, the dye was made from the mucus of murex sea snails. The snails' glands secreted a pale yellow fluid that, when exposed to sunlight and air, gradually turned into a rich, deep purple. The process was incredibly slow, foul-smelling, and required tens of thousands of snails to produce just a single gram of dye. Because of its rarity and cost, purple became a symbol of serious wealth and power, a luxury reserved only for royalty, emperors, and those high-ranking elites. The skeleton panda is one of the more unique deep-sea creatures. It's cute, yet creepy in equal measure. Found in cold waters near Japan and the Philippines, it has a translucent barrel-shaped body on the outside and a creepy internal structure that looks eerily like a cartoon panda. But don't worry, even though it looks like it should be in a children's horror book, if there is such a thing, it's completely harmless. But it does make sense why it hangs out in the deep sea. I think I'll stick to goldfish. Long before the rise of modern dentistry, back when fluoride, cavities, and oral hygiene weren't exactly household concepts, many believed that toothaches were caused by tiny creatures called toothworms. These mythical worms were thought to burrow into teeth, causing pain by gnawing their way from the inside out. The belief was so widespread that some even claimed to see them wriggling in freshly pulled teeth. To get rid of them, people tried smoking them out by burning herbs, applying crushed garlic or onions, and the slightly more drastic measure, dripping sulfuric acid, the stuff that can dissolve metal, directly into the tooth to kill the worm. Needless to say, none of these remedies worked, unless their goal was extreme, excruciating pain. When people first started driving cars, the concept of road markings and lanes simply didn't exist. Roads were essentially free-for-alls, with drivers veering wherever they liked. As you can imagine, accidents and collisions were almost guaranteed. It wasn't until a Michigan man named Edward Hines took a leaky milk can filled with white paint and marked the first recorded center line that roads started to feel a little less like Mario Kart. In 1920, Major League Baseball officially banned the Spitball. This was a pitch where they applied saliva or petroleum jelly to alter the ball's movements, essentially making it harder to hit and more dangerous. The decision came after concerns over unfair advantages and player safety, especially following the tragic death of Ray Chapman. Ray was struck in the head by a pitch and remains the only Major League Baseball player to have died on field. This rule change made sense, but what didn't make sense is the decision to allow 17 pitchers to keep using the Spitball indefinitely. These players were grandfathered in, exempt from the rule because their entire careers and pitching techniques had been built around it. It's a bit like banning three-pointers in basketball, except for the players who can actually make them. Cotard syndrome, also known as walking corpse syndrome or Cotard delusion, is a rare psychiatric condition in which a person genuinely believes they're dead. They think they simply no longer exist. In a 2004 study examining 100 cases, researchers found that 89% of sufferers had depression, 65% experienced anxiety, and about 50% displayed the paradoxical delusion of being both dead and immortal. The concept of the drive-thru is a little bit different to what we know today. It wasn't meant for you to quickly snag a greasy burger and fries. No, it all started in banking. In 1930, the Grand National Bank in St. Louis, Missouri, introduced the first ever drive-through service, allowing customers to handle basic transactions like cash deposits or withdrawals without leaving the comfort of their car. What was thought of as a novel idea at the time has now turned into a cornerstone of modern convenience. From the 12th to the early 19th century, people used wooden sticks called tally sticks to record large financial transactions, especially government loans and taxes. These sticks were carved with notches to represent amounts. They were then split lengthwise, with one half going to the creditor and the other half to the debtor. The longer half was called the stock. This is where we get the term stock from in modern finance. So I guess the stock market is just a market for big sticks. Before Google or Alexa, Victorian homes relied on a low-tech but surprisingly effective household intercom system. They placed hollow metal tubes, also known as speaking tubes, inside their walls. These tubes connected key parts of the house, like the kitchen and servant quarters, and to use it, you'd start by blowing into a small whistle to alert the other end, then simply shout the message down the pipe. In Iceland, baby names are taken seriously. So seriously, in fact, that they have an official naming committee who decides whether a name is acceptable or not. Established in 1991, the committee ensures that all names conform to the rules of Icelandic grammar, spelling, and pronunciation. An obvious one is that names can only use letters found in the Icelandic alphabet, so C, Q, W, and Z are off limits. You won't find any Chloes in Iceland, and Elon Musk's whatever this is, yeah, that's not going to fly. Are you looking for a job? Why not become an Iceberg Wrangler? Yes, it's a real thing. In the icy waters of Canada, crews are tasked with moving rogue icebergs out of busy shipping lanes to prevent ships from colliding with these massive drifting hazards. They use tugboats, tow ropes, and even high-powered water cannons, but it's still no easy task. I mean, icebergs can weigh thousands of tons. But hey, Iceberg Wrangler, it sounds pretty good on a resume. And that's all the facts for today. I'm all about the weird and wacky, so if you got something random, make sure you send it my way. And if you haven't had your fill just yet, check out these ones. You'll find everything from rain summoning frog weddings to the bizarre condition where people suddenly burst into flames. Yeah, that's a real thing. Thanks again for supporting the channel, and I'll catch you next time.